Hey, Colton. Yep, still in China. So I just finished the book that we were reading together, Awakening the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, which is a self-help book about capturing your own potential. He had lots of great ideas, my favorite of which was a 10-day attitude diet, where for 10 days you didn't allow yourself to focus on any negative thoughts, which is really hard, by the way. But it helped me to realize how often I'm negative, like multiple times an hour. However, I found the book to be pretty long-winded, unconcise, and painfully cliche. Now, Tony Robbins' book and most of these other self-help books aim at helping people control their relationships and finances and their personal happiness and even their health. Essentially, his book is to help teach people skills that they need to be in control of their own lives, which is statistically something that Americans are becoming worse and worse at. Let's take depression for an example. In 1991, 3.33% of Americans suffered from depression, which is roughly 1 out of every 30 adults. This number jumped to 7.6 in 2002 and is estimated to be as high as 9% for 2015, which is almost 1 out of every 10 adult Americans suffering from depression. What about health? Since the 1960s, the amount of obese adults in the United States has more than doubled. In 1962, that number was 13%. In 1990, it was 23%. In the year 2000, it jumped to 31%. And in 2010, 36% of adult Americans were classified as being obese. But that's just obesity. If you add in overweight adults, the number skyrockets up to 68.8%, which is more than 2 out of every 3 adults being overweight or obese in the United States. When it comes to finances, the numbers are just as dismal. In 1980, a typical American household's debt was equal to 65% of the household's disposable income, 83% in 1990, 94% in the year 2000. And in the year 2006, the average American household's debt was equal to 130% of their disposable income. Now that number has recently dropped to only 105%, but I'm sure that anyone who has an amount of debt that is that much higher than their income cannot possibly feel financially secure. Lastly, American marriages seem to be following the same trend. In the 1860s, the divorce rate for first marriages was only 2%. In the 1940s, that number was up to 20%. By the early 2000s, that number had doubled, up to 41%. Many experts today put their estimates at around 50% of first marriages ending in divorce. Links to all these statistics are down there in the hingmei. These numbers are even more shocking when contrasted with the growth of the self-help industry itself, which is estimated at raking in an incredible $10 billion per year in the United States alone. With the books usually averaging less than $15 each, that is a lot of books. Over 6.5 million every single year. Experts believe that our friend Tony Robbins, the author of the book we just read, has been able to pull in $80 million in a single year. And the thing is, this industry is only growing at an average annual growth rate of 6.1%. Now, obviously these statistics are just correlation, not causation. I'm in no way insinuating that self-help books are leading Americans to being depressed and obese. But it seems that there must be some force in society that is dragging us down, and that we as people in the society are aware of it, which leads to the massive purchase of these self-help books. After all, their tips and advice and examples and super cliche statements, all of these authors kind of come down to these few simple truths. And that really is the power of human choice. Now, I'm not saying that all situations in life are a direct result of our choices. Life is hard and unfair, and it just be that way sometimes. But Colton, a good friend of mine often reminds me that the future is as bright as your faith. Isn't that true? Where does it say that the world is the way that it has to be? What stupid legislature passed that rule? Unless physicists have discovered some bummer law of nature that I'm not aware of, it doesn't have to be this way. If we believe that the world is a depressing place that wants us to fail, then it will be, and we will fail. But what if everyone decided that we want to do it better? We could change everything if we just decided that that's what we want. But I'm curious to know what each of you think about self-help books, whether or not they work and all that. So drop your thoughts down below in the comments section. And Colton, the next book that I'm planning on reading is The Diary of Anne Frank, so if you want to join me, I'd love it, and look out for my book review. Colton, until then, I just want to say that the world is a complicated place, and there's not one fail-safe method for achieving happiness and success. But I believe that choosing that happiness and success is what we want is probably the best place to start.